Welcome to my Biden versus Trump spring predictions, so let's start. And there we go. So for Colorado, I do think Colorado will swing to the left of 2020, and I see Biden winning there by 14% to 16%. While for Missouri, I do see it still being a safe state for Donald Trump in 2024. I think he probably wins Missouri by, I don't think he does as well as 2020, although I'm not sure. I'm gonna say he wins there by 13% to 15%, so still a safe margin for him. While for Virginia, I actually do see Virginia going into the safe category, which is quite crazy to think about, especially compared to like 2016 and 2020. But Trumpism is not, Virginia is one of those states that Trump really did poor at. So Virginia goes for Joe Biden, I think by just above a safe margin of 12%. And now for the likely states. So for the first likely state, let's go to South Carolina. So Donald Trump, trends wise, he didn't do that well from 2016 to 2020 as seen here in the South, and I do expect it to drop even more if he's the nominee especially. And I do see South Carolina, I think Biden does decent enough in certain areas, but still this would be a Trump win by, I'm guessing, like 9% to 11%. And a bit of a drop-off from 2020. New Mexico is up next, so I'm not sure what route Trump is going to go through, because there's two main routes he can run like he did in 2020, or maybe like a combination of that where he does a more populist route, which would help him in the north for sure. And it does look like he will, but I'm not too sure. New Mexico, I do see going for Biden by, I think this one does drop from 2020, of course, and I do see him winning here by 8% to 10%, so yeah, a drop off, but still a win for Joe Biden there. Following that, let's go back to the north. So for Maine at large, this is an area that I'm not too sure at, because if Trump goes more of a populist route, then he could actually do better here. Although I'm gonna give Biden the benefit of the doubt here, because Trump will have a lot of problems with independence, and I do see Maine at large going for Biden, but basically by the same margin as 2020 right now, although it could be subject to change by 8 to 10%. Now for a big state for Donald Trump, for his home state, most probably in 2024, that would be Florida. So Florida, the trends are amazing for the GOP, and the Florida Democrats are, I mean, one of the worst state parties ran in the country. Just poor management, and I do see this biting back against the Florida Democrats. And in 2024, I do have Florida going to Donald Trump by almost double digits, to be honest. I think Florida goes to the GOP by 8% to 10%, so it wouldn't be surprising if they even just go by a safe margin for the GOP nominee, but I'm gonna say 8 to 10%. And for another Trumpy state, that would be Iowa. Iowa, trends-wise, it's really interesting, because Trump is really good for those, for the farmers and the rural voters. Iowa, I could see perhaps trending really hard to the right from 2020. Just depends on what Trump does, really, and how the economy is, and how popular Biden is. But it's probably gonna be a likely margin in this scenario. Although I do think it would be a margin of 8% to 10%. And it's really because of how the trends are going against the Democrats in this state, and it's not looking good for them. Following that, let's go to a state that is really interesting. So Kansas. So Kansas in 2020, it only went for Trump by 14%. Then 2016, it went to him by 20%, which is a 6-point swing, by the way, which not many people seem to talk about. Although whatever. And I do see things getting worse for the GOP in this state. Trumpism is not going to appeal to a lot of the college graduates here. I do see, the trends perhaps going for the Democrats, although it still would be a GOP state. Although there's a decent chance that, we could actually see Iowa vote to the right of Kansas, which is so cursed. If you told someone this like 10 years ago, they would not have believed you. Let's go back to the Northeast. So New Hampshire. New Hampshire's interesting. I'm not sure how they would react to Biden running for a second term in 2024. Although I know for a fact that they wouldn't like Trump being the GOP nominee, which is a big issue for a lot of voters, really. New Hampshire, it's hard to tell. I would not even be surprised in 2024 if it actually goes by a safe margin for Joe Biden. It wouldn't surprise me. I think there's a chance that does happen, the same way that I could see Iowa going for a safe margin for Trump. Still, I do think it's gonna be similar to 2020 in many ways, which is why I do have New Hampshire going for Biden by 7 to 9%, which is really interesting. Let's see what next. So, for a very key state in 2024 on the presidential ballot, for Ohio. So Ohio, it is not as it is kind of Trumpy, but not as Trumpy as Iowa. So yeah, this is a state that Trump and the GOP needs to do well to retake the Senate in 2024. With Donald Trump, I still think he's gonna lack appeal to independent candidates. I'm not too sure if he's gonna be as big on, election denial stuff, which is really what's hurting his chances with independent voters. But I do see this state going for him by, I'm guessing, lowest probably 6.5%, and the highest I could see it being like 8.5% for Donald Trump. So yeah, we could see a bit of a drop off in 2024, I feel. And for Minnesota, so Minnesota's a big state for Biden, and I don't think Democrats are gonna forget about the Rust Belt like they did back in 2016. That's the reason why I do see incumbent President Biden winning here by the same margin, basically, as 2020. I'm guessing like 6% to 8%, anywhere in that areas where you're probably gonna see Minnesota vote like in 2024. But wait, so I almost forget about the 2nd district in Maine. So this will depend on a lot of things, because if we see Donald Trump going for someone like Tulsi Gabbard as his VP, then I could see, the 2nd district going by like a safe margin. But I still see it going by a likely margin of 6 to 8% at the moment, so almost a repeat from 2020. And now for the lean states, so for the first one, that is almost a likely margin. That's the 2nd district of Nebraska. I'm not too sure how this one could go. I still could see the 2nd district going by a likely margin for sure. Although, if Trump does focus on the Rust Belt more, I could see perhaps it going down to lean. Although I do see this is really like in between both margins. It just depends on so many things, because if Trump picks someone like Joni Ernst as his running mate, which could happen as well, someone from Iowa, has a decent chance of happening. It could narrow up. And for now, I'm gonna have this as a Biden win of here by a lean margin in the 2nd district of Nebraska. I'm gonna say around 3.5% to 5.5%. So yeah, barely a lean a margin. Following that, let's go to Arizona. So Arizona, if you have Trump running again in 2024, you're gonna see some huge trends to the left in Arizona. I expect the McCain's death to still happen, probably, because Trump is just like that personality-wise. So we could actually see another 3% swing in the next presidential election for Arizona, and actually that's pretty reasonable with Trump. With other candidates, Arizona would likely be tilt, but with Donald Trump and his extreme unappeal to Arizona voters, I do see Biden winning here by could it be likely? You could actually see likely D Arizona, which would be so cursed. I'm gonna have this as a lean D win for now for Biden by 2.5% to 4.5%, which is a really decent swing for the Democrats, but it's just because of how poor of a candidate Trump would be in Arizona. For a state that is trending very harsh to the left, so for Georgia, we don't know what's gonna happen in 2024. It could just be that it's the same margin as 2020, or we could even see all the way to likely D Arizona, which could happen, but I doubt it. So maybe with Trump it could, but I do see this being a President Biden win here by not as much as Arizona, fun fact, just because of how bad of a candidate Trump is in Arizona, but I see Georgia going for Joe Biden by 2% to 4%, so on average, Georgia, I do see it going for Biden by 3%, which is really interesting. But makes sense since Donald Trump is not a great candidate for these southern states right here. Following that, let's go to Michigan. So Michigan, I don't think it's gonna be winnable for Donald Trump at the moment with his current tactics, unless he goes full on populism. But that would cost him, Arizona probably goes by like 5% alongside Georgia. But back to the topic, Joe Biden, he's gonna do decently in Michigan. We all know that this is his strongest state in the Rust Belt that Trump won in 2016, of course. I know Joe Biden will win here in 2024 at the moment. I'm just not sure what the margin will be. And I see the margin. I'm guessing it will be a repeat from 2020, it being around 2%. I'm gonna say 2% to 4% due to incumbency advantage for Joe Biden. Yeah, I won for him here. Let's go now to Texas. So Texas, it's something that the GOP needs to win in order to, keep their current coalition. Trump won here by 9% in 2016, 4%, 3.5%, almost 3.5% drop off in 2020, and we could see that happen yet again, which is why, Trump, his appeal to independence is gonna be really bad. So, and that's gonna help Biden, because the Biden coalition is really one of the strongest coalitions we've seen in the presidential level for quite a while, and it's just because of how weak the GOP coalition is at the moment, really. I see Texas still going for Donald Trump, although it's only gonna go for him by, I'm guessing, 0.75% to 2.75%. Yeah, so there is a chance that it goes by a tilt margin, which could happen. But I think it's gonna be in the area of 1%, really. So yeah, probably like 1.5, 1.75, but still a narrow Trump win in Texas. So for the next margin, that would be in Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania, Joe Biden is quite lucky that he gets some home state advantage in this state. So Pennsylvania, Joe Biden, I do think Joe Biden will win Pennsylvania by a lean margin, I think. So I'm just not sure by how much. I think incumbency advantage does help him. It just depends on what Trump does, if he focuses more on the Rust Belt, which is one of the reasons why I do have this going for Joe Biden by 0.5% to 2.5%, so 1.5. So really not a big difference from 2020. But yeah, still a Biden win there. And I know there's a state that is sticking out like a sore thumb right now, and that's Alaska. In Alaska, because of ranked choice voting, this is a very hot take, kind of similar to what I said with Kansas voting to the left of Iowa. I do, at the moment, think that Alaska has a chance of voting to the left of Texas due to ranked choice voting and Trump being the nominee. Trump is really not the candidate for Alaska. It's kind of same for, Arizona, Texas. He doesn't do quite well in establishment-like states, and Alaska is one of them. We saw what happened in the House race in 2022. Let's see if it does have that here or no. Well, there we go. So, in 2022, we saw that the ranked choice voting helped, it didn't help Democrats. It just, the Republicans weren't the smartest and nominated two people that were pretty meh candidates, and, yeah. Thank you for putting it right there. Just give me a second. Yeah, there we go. So we saw how bad the GOP did on Alaska in 2022. With a really Trumpy candidate, Palin was almost Donald Trump's VP in 2016 too. So I don't see him doing well in Alaska, so I could even put this as tilt. You're gonna call me crazy, but I could actually see this being tilt R. Although currently I do have this going for Trump by 0.5% to 2.5%, so he barely wins here by with ranked choice voting in the presidential level, because it is going to happen the presidential level too by 1.5%, which is kind of the same as Texas, but yeah, I could see it even being tilted, so we will see what happens really, but not looking good for the GOP in Alaska at the moment with Trump. And now for the tilt states. The first one that I actually could see being almost lean in 2024 is between Nevada and Wisconsin. I think Nevada, they have good management now with the state party not being ran by socialists, so that's going to help them quite a lot. I still do see the trends in many areas helping the GOP, although Democrats, they will need a lot of turnout from the right areas in order to win, so I do see it being a bit of a drop-off from 2020, although it drops off 2.4% to 0.75%. And now for Wisconsin and Nevada, I mean, these are really close for the Democrats, and you know, if Trump does better in some ways, he could technically flip those. But for Wisconsin, I don't see a way that at the moment that Trump does good enough in Wisconsin. I do see that we will likely see the unison between the purple Rust Belt states. Still, all of them will likely vote together, and I do see Wisconsin still being a part of that, you know, unison. And I think incumbency advantage also helps Biden, which is why I actually do see it voting a bit to the left of 2020, which is, I know some of you would not like hearing this, but I do have Wisconsin being 0.75% for Joe Biden. And now for North Carolina. So North Carolina, you know, Trump, he's not at his peak right now, and we will see. Biden, this state itself is trending slowly to Democrats, and with someone like Donald Trump, who does not have good independent appeal, who likely will still, you know, talk about 2020 being iffy to some extent, and I still think he probably will. So I was saying, I do think all that sort of stuff will hurt Donald Trump. Alongside all the stuff happening right now, he will do better with his base, but in the general election, I do see, at the moment, it is a toss-up, but because of incumbency advantage, I actually do have North Carolina flipping in 2024 currently in this prediction, and Joe Biden wins here barely by 0.25%. And as you can see, for my spring prediction, I do have President Biden winning here by winning the election with 319 electoral votes, while President Trump gets 219 electoral votes. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and share and subscribe, and see you next time.